Good afternoon. Today I'm going to talk about how I keep my hands warm when I'm kayaking in cold weather. It's a kind of a rainy day. There's still lots of snow everywhere, but the waterways are starting to open up. I think I'll be probably kayaking within maybe the next week or so. So I've been going through my gear and I thought I'd share some of my gear with you. So I have just basically a couple things that I use to keep my hands warm. The first item is neoprene gloves. Okay, so these work. You know, they're just gloves that go on your hand, and when they get wet, when they absorb water, they retain the water, and your hand heats up the water, and they keep your hands warm. So basically, when you're paddling and you've got your neoprene gloves on, your hands remain warm even when they are wet. The downside being, the second you take your glove off into the cold air, your hand is wet. So they don't keep your hands dry, but they keep them warm. And these are just general good all-around gloves for kayaking with. Okay, you know, you can carry your boat. You can grab onto a tree or a rock or something like that. So they just give good general all-around dexterity. What they don't do is they don't allow for very fine motor skills. So for example, I've got my cell phone in its life-proof case here, and I can't use the screen. Okay, I swipe and it doesn't really work. And the other thing is for feel of your paddle. When you're paddling, you don't have a really good grip, a good feel for the paddle, because your skin isn't in direct contact with the paddle. Your skin is in contact with your glove, and the glove is in contact with the paddle. Okay? Okay. Okay, and that brings me to my next piece of gear, which are my pogies. Okay, so pogies are sleeves that go over top of the paddle that your hand slides into and out of very easily. These are my preferred piece of gear in most situations. You've got the better manual dexterity and you got better grip on your paddle, but there are situations where I would not want to be without my neoprene gloves. Okay, so these pogies, the way they work is they're a neoprene material. They use Velcro. Okay, there's what they look like inside, and they Velcro around your paddle shaft, so they're always attached to your paddle. Okay, like that. And so basically what happens is when you take your hand out, so you're holding onto the paddle with one hand, your other hand is free, and you can use this hand now to operate things like your cell phone, because you've got the manual dexterity to do that. Okay, so those are pogies. Just to note, the neoprene gloves are about $15 at my local outfitter. The pogies are about $25-30. They're a bit more expensive, but none of it's expensive kit, especially as far as boat stuff goes. Okay, so now we've talked about when I like pogies and when I like gloves, and there's a situation where I like both, and that's when it's cold. So I'm talking, anywhere from a couple of degrees above freezing down to a couple of degrees below freezing. Then I wear the neoprene gloves. Okay, you can see the neoprene gloves go right up to my rubber gasket on my dry suit, and the neoprene gloves will fit inside the pogies. And now I've got a really warm combination of neoprene gloves and pogies, and I find You know, if it's warm enough for me to, or if it's not too cold for me to go kayaking, then my hands stay warm in this combination. You know, there comes a point where, you know, the water freezes and you can't go kayaking. But until then, this works pretty well. And one last item to discuss is when you get back to your car, you take your hands out of your neoprene gloves or out of your pogies. Your hands are wet. If there's a wind blowing and it's cold, your hands are going to get cold. So I always have in a dry bag or in the car a pair of warm, dry, fuzzy gloves. Okay, so I wear these when I'm not paddling. I'll put these on, and that'll warm my hands up when they're cold and damp. Okay, that's how I keep my hands warm when I'm kayaking. Thank you.